Go. So welcome to this week's live feed. Eventually we're going to come up with a name for this. We don't have a name for it, but for those of you out there that are watching, we're going to be talking today for about a half hour. We're actually running a workshop, a little seminar class for graduates of the Fearless program, and that's been going on all day today, and it'll be going on to probably about midnight tonight. So I've got about 30 or so students that have been through different programs in the room, and they're in here sharing their experiences, and we're taking a little break from that right now for me to answer some questions. And I'm going to take questions from the room, and we're going to find out what some of these guys want to know. And you guys are welcome also to comment, and because we have some team members watching the comments over there on the computers in the back of the room. So who's got a question they want answered today? Boom. Chris.
What's the best way to move from want to choice?
From want to choice. It's to, and that's assuming there's no need or have to on it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're really wanting something, for everybody that's just joining in, if you're really wanting something, for example, you want a date, you want a job, something like that. The want is between you and the receiving of the thing you want. So what most people do is they push into the want. I want something, so I have to push. When the push becomes enough, whatever your required amount of push is that you believe you need in your subconscious mind, you've worked hard enough, you've dug in hard enough, I've pushed myself hard enough, then what happens is you surrender. There's a surrender, and from surrender you'll move up to choice. That's the hard way to do it. And then you'll start receiving it. It's almost like you fatigue yourself so much that you let go, and in that moment you say fuck it. And then what happens is as you move into choice, you start getting what you want. For some people that might be a 5-minute process. For other people that might be a year process or a 5-year process for some guys when it comes to dating. I had a client in here that had been studying this material for 7 years and hadn't got anywhere because he was in a massive amount of desire and want, need to, have to, pushing, and building it up more and more, going into heavier and heavier emotions, grief, apathy, and pain around what he wanted to receive, and none of that was resolved. As soon as he resolved all the pushing, that I have to, I need to, I want to, I desire, then he moved into choice, and he started receiving, and then he got himself a girlfriend, got himself a new job, and I think they moved in together. And so this is an example of that. He had learned every pickup technique under the sun for meeting women, but he hadn't resolved this. So once he resolved this, it became easy. So with want, we have to welcome the wants. The wants are between us and the receiving. And most of us are wanting so much, we're not stopping to acknowledge the want. That's the first step. So if you want, whatever the want is, I want that girl, notice why you want that girl. I want that girl to, is there a sense of control? So the 4 basic wants that every want falls into is either a want for control, a want for approval, a want for security to survive, or the want for separation. And the opposite of separation is the want for oneness. And so if you look, that one is going to fall into one of those categories. And it could even be the category of disapproval. For example, the want for approval could be disapproval. The want for control could be to be controlled. And for example, an example of this would be if inside you're like, I just want some power. I want to feel powerful. That's the want for control. And so what you do is you acknowledge that want. You welcome that want. You welcome everything that's coming up with it. Every emotion, every feeling, every thought, every image. If there's some sadness or loneliness attached to it, welcome that up too. And after you've done that for a little bit, maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, for some of you, you might have to do this for like 4 or 5 minutes. Just keep welcoming it up and all the emotions. Then ask your body if you can let that want go. Can I let the want go? And maybe you'll let some of it go, maybe you'll let all of it go. But what you're going to notice is as the want leaves, you might have more emotions if you have real intense emotions come up. Don't try to shut it back down. Let them all come out as much as willing to come out. And then when you're done, just ask yourself again if you can let go of these emotions, let go of everything that's just happened. And then do it again. Come back and check. Is there check with what you're working on? Is there any more want? If you can feel more want, let that go and all the emotions that go with it. And keep cycling through the process until you feel the want really die down. And then you'll start to feel more choice. Now, for some people, it's as simple as this. I told you the long, more convoluted process, but for some people, if you're just standing there and you got a simple want, and I want to do this, I want to do this, can you relax and just choose it? Ask yourself that. Can I just choose this? If you know what choice feels like, you might be able to make that transition. Some people know what choice feels like. You have a sense of choice. In your life, recognize where you're in choice, where you make solid choices and take action. Get a feel for what that feels like, and then ask yourself, can I move this want in this other area to choice? So it feels like that area that you do have choice in, that same feeling. Does anybody have do you have an area where you feel solid about your ability to choose?
Just choosing women.
Yeah. So you meet women and get sex easy now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take making $1 million or $100,000. At $100,000, can you move from want? Can you ask your body, can I feel the want, welcome the want, and can I move that want to choice in that area? And do you feel a shift when you do that?
I mean, I feel emotions come up.
Yeah, so start letting those emotions go. Just keep asking if you can make that switch, and as the emotions come up, just let them keep opening at the heart, feel into the heart, and just letting them leave your body. Open at the stomach, and just let them all come up. The thoughts, the images, any feelings or sensations in the body, any emotions. And you might feel this sense of getting lighter in your body in different places, or heating up, or tingling, and that's your body processing in that moment. And as more leaves, you should feel a greater sense of choice. Are you feeling that happen?
I think I see all the other things I need to choose to make that happen.
Yeah.
And so then that's coming up.
Now, be careful with that, because what'll happen for a lot of people that are very good at distracting themselves is one area starts to change and they jump, and they never work on that. They don't work on that one area enough.
Yeah.
So I'd work on this. Great, take note of that, but come back and keep working this area for a little bit until you get a greater sense of expansion, or you really feel like you've made some movement before you jump to another area. Because if every time you start to work and then, I got to go over here, I got to go over here, it's kind of like working and having your cell phone on, Facebook up, a Twitter in the background, all these different stuff going on. And every time you start to do some work, like I sit down to do some work, there's ping, 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 and you're just constantly distracted. The subconscious or ego knows how to distract you really fast from the tension. And so you kind of have to get that's something you're going to learn over time. Is this distracting me, or do I really need to work on it? Because maybe you don't.
I think in this situation it's the latter, or it is connected. I guess what's coming up is like going from like $100,000 to $1 million. The thing I have to choose isn't necessarily making that much money. It's what's coming up for me is I have to take on more responsibility, and I have to choose that. And then that's what's coming up for me.
Yeah, you have to get in choice with responsibility. You need to get to the point, and I would do releasing on whether if responsibility really is freedom. So, because I personally believe that responsibility is freedom. The more responsibility I can manage in a good way, in a powerful way, with good systems, a good team, the more freedom I have in life. The less I'm good at managing responsibility, the more I'm a micromanager and I just try to take it on and do it all myself, the more responsibility is a prison. And so that's where you could do a lot of releasing. Is responsibility really freedom? And if you start to look out in the world at all the successful people in the world who have the most freedom, they also have a lot of responsibility they've taken on, especially if they've self-created it from nothing. You know, you could say, okay, there's this guy who was born into his multi-millions and was just given to him. I'm talking about people who self-created. They've risen up, and what they've done is they've mastered responsibility. You know, they've mastered the ability to manage it, and in that they can go travel anywhere they want in the world now. They can eat at the best restaurants. They can stay at the finest hotels. They've got a lot of free time. I believe that really successful people have a good amount of free time. I believe that if you're successful and you're working 80 hours a week, you're not successful yet. You're still struggling, unless that's what you love to do. Unless working 80 hours a week is your passion. Like you love to work, truly. You're not doing it as a distraction. It's something you truly love. So That's where the releasing probably is for you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to let that one go for now. Any other questions today? And thank you for that.
Yeah, I got one. So you're trying to get to choice, but you have heavy emotions coming up, and it's really easy to go, oh, well, I have to get to choice so bad, I have to feel positive. I'm going to just force myself to change to feeling good emotions. So how powerful would you say it is to be honest with yourself and acknowledge the fact that
Being honest with yourself is everything.
Yeah.
If you want to go from here, we're in Los Angeles, to San Francisco, do you need to know you're in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
What if you didn't know you were in Los Angeles, or you're in denial about being in Los Angeles? Would you be able to get to San Francisco?
Not a chance.
San Francisco representing the destination. Now you also need to know where you're going, right? And you need to have a clear picture of both. Okay, so one is you're honest about where you're at without making it wrong or attacking yourself. Without self-abuse. That's what has to be cleaned off. If I am there's one thing to say, let's say I don't have a job. I could sit there and beat myself up over not having a job and say I'm a really bad person because I don't have a job, or I can't get a date. I could say I'm a really bad person, I'm a piece of shit. That's not where you're at. That's an opinion. Where you're at is currently I don't get dates, and or currently I don't have a job. And that's really about it. And what I want instead, San Francisco being, let's say, is I want to be able to date a lot, or I want to be able to have a new job making X amount of dollars. And I want a company like this, and get all the details. Those two things are important, taking off all the judgment about which is right and wrong. And then you want to focus on where you're going. And you want to make where you're going, the image of where you're going and the feeling and feeling good about where you're going, more important than where you're at. But if where you're at has all this judgment, guilt, shame attached to it, that you have to deal with that to be able to move to the new place. Okay? So once I have no more judgment about where I'm at and I'm free, I'm like, okay, I can accept myself right where I'm at. Then it's easy to focus on where you want to go. It's easy to imagine where you want to go because you're not beating yourself up over where you're at. So I can say, okay, I like it where I'm at, so I'm going to look over there. And it's the same thing. If I'm in a job I don't like, it's the same thing. If I'm in a job I don't like, what a lot of people try to do, and I've had somebody recently say this to me, I think it was you, that I don't want to learn to like my job or I'll stay there and I want to move on. Well, that's a sure way to get yourself stuck there. How many people do you know that hate their jobs and have been there for years? Okay, and they don't leave. And then what happens is they end up finally, let's say the company goes out of business, they get fired, they quit because they get pissed off one day, they say something stupid. Then they recreate the same hate for a job in a new place. Sometimes worse. And the reason that is because they never resolved the issue with where they were at, so they had to recreate it. So learning to accept, you don't have to love it to the point of, I want to stay here. If that happens, great, then you got a great job. You just have to get to where you're released on it, you're free. Like, this job's not bad, it's free, I'm okay with it. It's paying the bills, it's doing this, and you got to truly be free about that. And then it's easy to look at where you want to go. Like when you first came and you were all upset over where you're at with women, it was really hard to teach you. Because every time we would take you out to meet a woman, you would look at other women and you would get all upset over not being able to have those women because you were beating yourself up as to where you're at. So it was really hard to show you anything new because it was just like, but look where I'm at. Look at the problems I have. Look where my life's at. Look how much this sucks. I'll never get, I went up and talked to that girl and we only talked for 5 minutes and then she wouldn't give me her phone number. And so you were unable to learn.
Yeah.
Now you're fine. You laugh at yourself, you have fun, you're free. Aren't you happier overall?
I say so.
Yeah, and that's because you're more free about where you're at, which then allows you to move to where you're going and grow faster. It allows you to see new realities, new possibilities. A lot of times what you want, this new amazing job, is waiting for you and it's already in your vicinity. Most people already have it in their vicinity if they want it. They just can't see it or accept that they can do it currently, or the woman or whatever, because they're so upset about their current job. If I have 100% of my energy, let's say I have 100% energy, let's say I have 1 to 100, and let's say 60% of it is focused on where I'm at, pissed off. I got 40% to focus on where I want to go. I need to get that, assume you need to get that to 51% focused on where you want to go at least, and 49% on where I'm at. And then the more you decrease the focus on where you're at, bitching, attachment, anger, frustration, the more you move that energy over to where you want to go, accepting where you're at, taking the charge off of where you're at, the faster you're going to move over. So what most people do is they get so upset about where they're at. They say, oh, I want $1 million. I've heard people say this a million times. Well, I want $1 million. I haven't got it. What you focus on? There's no law of attraction. I'm like, well, tell me how you focus on it. You see, how much of your time do you spend focusing on why the $1 million is not here? How hard it is to get? Yeah, you're focusing on $1 million in a negative way. And that's why it's not showing up in your life. Same with women. You're focusing on how hard it is to meet women, how difficult it is to meet women. And you haven't resolved that. So then the next thing that people do is they say, well, then I'm just going to focus 100% on how amazing women are. And you start telling yourself that all day long. But you haven't dealt with what you feel about women. So you go, now you're just state pumping and pushing and forcing your mind. Like, I'm not going to even acknowledge this. That does not exist, but I'm going to focus right here on these beautiful women. But that doesn't, I'm not letting it in. It's not there. And what's happening is this reality, the more you're pushing it away, is getting bigger and bigger because you haven't taken the charge off it. You're just trying to push it down like pushing down a volcano. And it will always explode back in. So you have to resolve this and actually move that energy in the direction that you want to go. And then what you want comes to you easily. And does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Brian, I was going to ask you about judgment.
Mhm.
From my releases, I felt that what tends to keep an attachment in place a lot of the time is having judgment before having it in the first place.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to releasing judgment or guilt or shame for having an attachment that just won't release for whatever reason, do you release on wants associated with judgment itself? Or do you just welcome the emotions associated with judgment? Like, how does that process work?
Well, take the thing you want. You can release on judgment. You can release directly on judgment. There's no real rules. So whatever works, works. So you can welcome up, picture what you want that you have judgment on, and welcome up the judgment. And then notice if there's any wanting for control, approval, survival, security, separation, or oneness. And then just start releasing on that. And then welcome the possibility of being free in that area. Welcome the possibility of being open in that area, just let go. And notice how that feels. Welcome the possibility of just being accepting, which would be kind of the opposite of judgment, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome the possibility of just being accepting in that area.
That's a good
And then go back and do it again. Welcome up everything around that judgment. Welcome up the judgment, see if it's still there, and process it again. You might have to do it 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times. And everybody does it differently. You might have to go through it 10 times, and then it starts to, the want starts to die off, because it's the wants that keep us stuck. It's hard to release negative emotions like apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride, all this stuff, all these heavy emotions from that comes from the Sedona method. But it's hard to release these heavy emotions as long as the wants are attached to it. So as you break up these wants, you start to acknowledge that you want this stuff and ask your mind. You just really have to ask your mind, can I let this want go? You got to acknowledge it, welcome it, and then ask if you can let it go. And then you'll start to notice the emotions start to come out right behind it or right with it. They start to leave with it at the same time. The emotions, think of it this way, the emotions are to help us. If I really want, desire bursts the pain, right? So I have a desire to get a beautiful woman. I see her, I'm like, wow, I want that beautiful woman. Then a little part of me goes, so let's say I get rejected and I start to believe I can't get a beautiful woman. Then either to motivate us or protect us or push us away, we start creating emotions. Because the want's there, but and then my mind is going, but I really want her. And what does a want imply? Anybody? That you can't have it. So if I want her, there's an implication I can't have it. Otherwise, I would just go get it, right? I just go meet a girl. If I didn't have any sense of want, I just go meet the girl. I'd go into having. But since there's a want, there's a subtle subconscious implication I can't get her. So then I might create fear because I don't want to get rejected again. So my subconscious is trying to protect me. I might create anger to help me face the fear so I can push through it and get her, all in response to that want. If I resolve the want, I can let go of the anger and the fear. But if I don't resolve the want and I let go of the anger and the fear, which is possible, chances of it coming back are high because the want's still there. And it keeps coming back, keeps regrowing. Who's had that experience where they release an emotion over and over again and it just keeps coming back? Yeah. You haven't resolved the want or the need level. The have to, all that kind of stuff.
So, do we ask ourselves the question, what basically I want or looking for? Do I keep like searching?
Simple.
Direction?
So it's simple. I'll go through it. Welcome up what you're working on. What are you working on? Let's just go through it really quick. Is there an area that you're working on?
Yeah, well,
Give me something simple.
like in my business, I want to develop it, just expand.
Is this a true one or you just made it up?
No, seriously, corporation.
You want to expand your business.
Yes, turn into corporation.
Is that are you neutering this in any way or is that the truth of what you're feeling?
Well, the thing is, I'll make something. It's what I want is to go to Bucharest. That's
Okay.
what I want. So
Okay.
like I've struggled so much, in the past because that was like the want, and then.
Okay. So can you welcome up this want to go to Bucharest?
Yes.
Is there a need to understand how to do this right now?
Is there a need to?
Is there a need to understand or figure this out?
There's no need, but I want to figure it out.
Okay.
See.
Can you welcome the want to figure it out? Okay. Before we start, can you let go of that want? Can you let go of the want to understand? Would you rather go to Bucharest or want to go to Bucharest?
I like to go to the want.
Okay, so then can you let go of the want to go to Bucharest? Okay, good. See how the mind works? Now we start. I wanted to let go of that trying to figure it out because that's going to be in the way of us working, right? This is something that is very important. So can you welcome up again the want to go to Bucharest and all the images, thoughts, feelings, and sensations that go with it? So you're welcoming him up the images and the thoughts and the stuff in your mind. Are you able to do that? Good. Can you feel into your heart? Can you feel into your body? Good. Okay. Can you notice if there's any wants attached to it? The want to control, i.e. like figure it out, have power over the situation, something like that. The want for approval, validation in this area, the want for security, or the want for separation or oneness in this area. Just notice what comes up as I ask you about those wants. Does any of them have a sense in your body of a charge as I say it?
Control the situation that happened.
Okay, so control. Okay, and there could be multiple ones. So start with the first one. Okay? Can you welcome up that sense of want for control over the situation?
Can I feel it? Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Can you let go of that want for control? Can you just let it go? Feel your body and ask it to let go.
I feel like I'm resisting.
Okay, would you rather want control over the situation or would you rather have it?
I'd rather not have it.
You'd rather not have it?
Yeah, it's just.
Huh?
I would like to allow to have it, but like, it's.
Would you listen to the question? Would you rather want to have control over your ability to go to Bucharest or would you rather have control over your ability to go to
Have
Bucharest?
control.
Okay, can you let go of the want for control?
Yeah. It's resisting.
Okay, can you welcome the resistance?
Yes.
Okay. Can you really welcome the resistance?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Can you let go of this want for control? Ask your body, don't ask your head. Slow down. Can you welcome the want for control? And then can you let it go? Can you see if there's any want to be out of control and not have to deal with this? Can you welcome that?
Yes.
Can you let that go? Can you let go of the want to be out of control, the want to avoid this?
Yes.
There we go, that was better. Now see if there's any want for control.
No.
Okay, good. Good. Now, can you let go of any feeling, any of the pictures, images, thoughts, or feelings that came up around Bucharest?
No,
Is there any to let go?
no, I feel great.
Okay, good. There you go. So he feels great. So
I mean, like, it's not that lust, desire of mine, it's just like, okay.
yeah, so there you go. So you come into acceptance, and then your mind starts to be able to see new options, new ideas, and new possibilities, doesn't it? When you look at Bucharest now, how does it feel? How does it feel different?
Well, it doesn't feel needy, it feels more like,
How does the possibility of going feel?
I feel relaxed.
Okay. As opposed to before?
Yes.
As opposed to before, what's the difference in feeling?
It's just, it's lighter.
Okay.
Earlier it was heavy.
Does it feel possible now? Does it feel like it's something that's going to happen or possible in some way?
Yeah, it seems possible, yes.
Perfect. So that's the difference. Okay, does everybody get that? Okay. And of course it gets trickier and trickier and trickier. There's a lot of layers and stuff like that, but if you just play with the basics there, you can do a lot. Just notice where you're pushing and pulling. A want is like a pull, right? And then sometimes we push, like I want to get rid of this, I want to avoid, we push things away, we pull on them. And that's what keeps us, when as long as that pushing and pulling is going on, it keeps us from being able to release any emotions, sadness, grief, loneliness, anger, frustration over any problem. When it comes to women, think of how many times you guys feel sadness, grief, anger, frustration, and you can have layers and layers of it. And don't think, because you learn this in 1 or 2 rounds, you're going to get rid of all your fear of approaching women. If you've had it for 30 years, you might take a little bit, but it should get lighter and lighter, lighter and lighter, lighter and lighter as you work on it. You want to get to the point, the quicker you can get to the point, you don't care if you receive it. Like you don't care if you ever get good at approaching women because you're happy either way. The quicker you'll get the ability to approach women or meet women or bring women into your life. Because notice that everything that you receive in your life, you don't have this, I have to go get it. You're free. And then what happens is it's easy to go get. I know it's another oxymoron, but it becomes easy to go get. You have to get past the chase. And then it comes to you. The desirelessness state. There's the whole idea, like Napoleon Hill says, you got to have a burning desire, but you can't stay in a burning desire and receive it. You have to then transmute that burning desire into receiving, into choice, into expectancy, and it might even take, through law of transmutation, which is one of the 7 natural laws, once you're in choice, it might still take a little bit of time to come in. Once a woman gets pregnant with a baby, how long does it take to make that baby and have it show up? It's in process, right? If you're building a building and you got blueprints and everybody's working on it, you're expecting the building to be built because you paid for it and everybody's working on it, but it still takes a period of time. You don't go into doubt over that. You just keep expecting. If you do go into doubt, that's probably when you're going to have all kinds of problems. You're going to create all kinds of problems with yourself with the construction of that building. If you start worrying and doubting, you're going to create problems that don't need to be there because your mind is going to project onto it, and then your powerful subconscious mind is going to find a way to create problems. And then you're going to be right. You're going to say, see, I knew it. It's funny how some people say, I knew that was going to happen, or I knew that was going to happen. And the question I have is, did you know or did you create it? Because you kept knowing so much, you eventually got your subconscious mind to help go create that. And so, go ahead, Zach.
Where does knowing fit into that equation, into that hierarchy?
Well, you're going to get the best knowing here. This is where your knowing is going to be the most accurate up in choice. Because as long as you're lower, you know how the emotional scale works? Apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride, courage, acceptance, peace. Or if you're looking at Hawkins' scale, it's courage, acceptance, love, peace. That courage, acceptance, love, peace area is the area where we're really the most clear for receiving. That's all choice up here, okay? When we're in that relationship to anything we want to do, okay? When you're below that, in those lower emotions, your knowing, which is more like your instincts, your sense of knowingness, is going to be clouded by your lower emotions. Okay? There was a quote from Lester Levinson that Hale Dwoskin said, it's instincts only right 100% of the time. But if you're below the level of cap, then your instinct, it's not that your instincts are wrong, they're clouded. They have some clouded glasses over the top of them because you're filtering them through fear, anxiety, worry, and so it's shooting all kinds of doubt into the instincts or a confusion in the instincts or something like that. But once you're, notice when you're in the, you ever been in the flow state with anything?
Yeah.
When you're in that flow state, notice how like every decision works. You're not doubting, you're not worrying, you're just like adjusting, moving, timing, rhythm, everything is like pop, 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 the whole time you're in the flow state, right? And I remember the first time I got in the flow state, I was running and I got in a runner's high and everything, I was just floating along and my legs were moving themselves and everything was beautiful. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. I don't think that was the first time I was in the flow state, but that's for the first time, this is the first time running and it ever stood out for me. And then about a half a block into it, I go, wow, this is amazing. And I started thinking about it, analyzing it, because I wanted to understand what happened. And boy, it was gone like that. And suddenly I was moving my own legs again, that clunkiness came back, you know, all that sense of knowing where to go and when kind of started disappearing. So the more you get up there on the emotional scale, courage, acceptance, love, peace, the more your instincts are just like dead on. Boom, 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 go here, talk to her, say this. Was it you that said the other day that, oh yeah, you were talking earlier today about the girl that you met in Bucharest, the Irish girl, and you don't even know where you were just having fun, you would drop really low in your body, remember you said that? You were really low in your body, so he was really in cap, feeling good, and then you just didn't know where the words just came out of you, right? And you were just like, and then she laughed and she loved it, and you didn't even know where those words came from, right? And that's an example of instinct taking over because he was in such a good state. It's just, you don't even worry about what to say. It just comes out of you. And everything seems magical and fun. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool, you're welcome. John?
Kind of similar to some of the other items you're talking about today. I know I've had experiences where taking that first step, whether it's travel, to take a program to better myself, to just do something, is always the hardest step. And I'm sure a lot of viewers are going to relate to that too. What would you recommend to like help get over that and to take that first step towards taking that action, whatever that happens to be in their life? That initial hesitancy.
Well, that's an interesting question because, you know, I don't know what everybody's personal situation is. I could really coach somebody really good on that if I was talking to their personal situation. But most of the time, when we're not having any success, let's say your life seems to be going backwards, everything that you want is going to be most likely in the direction of fear at that point. You're not going to trust anything, and so there's going to be a sense of fear. You're going to need to start taking, first thing I would do actually is start meditating, cleaning up my thought process. And then noticing where and in the meditations, noticing where my instincts want to go. And then come out, and even if I'm scared, make a decision to go in that direction. Because as soon as you come out of the meditation, you'll probably be scared. And then make a decision to commit to going in that direction. And take action. And what's going to happen is as you go in that direction, the fear is going to build more and more and more. If you make a full commitment, it should be something where you're not going to turn around. Because at least until you get to some sense of this is where I'm going to get to, this is my goal. Because what's going to happen is the fear is going to rise the closer you get to the goal. You know, so pick something that's, if for the viewers out there, I'd say pick something that's manageable, that's something you can jump and take action into, and you can commit to for a period of time to create a sense of success. An example, if it's meeting women, maybe you take 1 week where you're going to go out and work for 5 days straight or 7 days straight, and you're only going to work for an hour a day, where you're going to go out and you're going to do something to meet 5 women every day, even if it's just ask them the time, if you're that scared. And at the end of that week, you celebrate it. That's a sense of success, because committing is easy. Getting out there, and if you're terrified, doing that first approach, walking up to that first girl, and sometimes just saying, what's the time, is the scariest thing. I remember when I did that, I went out, and this was many years ago, and I was terrified of all this stuff. I was scared of my shadow. And I said, I'm just going to go out today and ask people the time. I need to talk to people every day. And I got out there, and I remember looking at this big guy standing there with his watch on, and I could not go ask him the fucking time. I'm like, how am I supposed to talk to girls? I can't even talk to this guy over here. And I thought to myself, I have asked people the time before. Why can't I ask people this guy the time? And it was because, and I knew exactly why. It was because I was such a nice guy that I knew inside I was lying. And because I didn't need to know the time. And I felt guilty and ashamed of that. So I couldn't go ask him the time. And I knew I needed to face that. And what helped me get over that was when I heard the story of this girl who wanted to meet a guy. And so she just went over at a college, and she went over and just, oh, I'm lost. Can you help me find this room? Just so she could talk to the guy. She had no qualms about it. I'm like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. You know, if the girls can do it, I can do it as a guy. It was like I had to give myself permission knowing the girls do it too. And that's when I started a little bit at a time, baby steps. Baby steps, right? For some people, walking and asking the time is too easy. I need something harder. Or at least they think it's too easy till they go do it. And then sometimes they find out they're not. Some people go out. I've taken students out and they go out to asking the time's easy. I want to do something harder. So I give them something a little harder. And I'm like, okay, go say this to that girl. No. I'm like, and I literally ask. I was like, I'm thinking of somebody specific. And I'm like, why not? Well, I just don't want to. Are you scared? No, I'm not scared. I'm like, then why is your hand shaking? And I look down, his hand's going like this, like shaking. And I'm like, and you're sweating. And he's like, I am? I didn't even know my hand was shaking. And that's how cut off from their own emotions they are. And so those are people, well, let's go back to just asking people the time to start with then, until you get over that. I remember that guy, I had to go. He was so terrified, just like you, Sean. Don't take this wrong. I had to take him, I went from building to building into every store at this mall in Burbank. And I went into every building and started talking to people with him attached to my side. I wouldn't let him go. And then I would introduce him to people, and then I'd walk to the next store and I'd do the same thing. I walked it, and he's shaking and he's freaking out next to me, and because he can't talk yet. And it took about 10 stores before he could take over, and then I followed him for a while, then I started slowly backing off. Because he couldn't start any conversations with anybody, he was so scared. So I had to go do it and just drag him along until he calmed down. And he could hardly talk, he could hardly say a word. Sound familiar? And then he finally calmed down, and then he was able to do a little on his own. And then slowly I backed up and backed out of the picture and kept him moving. And this was over time. This didn't all happen in one day, because usually we don't desensitize that much in one day. Some people do. You dropped a lot in one day, you know, and it was amazing to watch, because you were hugging that tree, scared shitless, and this big explosion of tears and emotions, and then you dropped it all, and then suddenly you're like, oh, pretty girl, and you walked right over. I was like, okay, that was interesting. You don't usually see that. It went on for like 45 minutes too. Him just freaking out, 45 minutes freaking out, and just gone suddenly. Hey, there's a girl, I want to go talk to her. And I was like, okay, that's a new one. Yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. Eddie?
Yeah, I have a question about when you were talking about intuitions
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot and instincts. And if you're in the lower scale emotions and you're saying it's a little cloudy as opposed to being in the higher scale emotions, does that mean that those intuitions are wrong if they're cloudy, or is it just that you have a release on the emotions or to get into them being?
Well, you wouldn't know. Can you, if I turn off the lights and hold up a piece of, and tell you to read this, if I dim the lights really low and we just tell you to read this, what are the chances you'll get it right?
Slim to that.
Huh?
Slim to that.
Right, and maybe depending on how good your eyesight is and how dark I make it, you might get some of it or might get one line. That's the same idea. So as you clean up the emotions, it's like turning up the light of consciousness on the actual thing you're looking at, and you get a better view. So yeah, you can be mistaken, you can be wrong, you're fearing, like you might feel the instinct to go do X, but there's so much fear, doubt, and worry in there that hasn't been resolved. The fear, doubt, and worry is telling you all the reasons you shouldn't do it, and you're taking that as instinct. But instinct doesn't talk in fear, so that's one clue right there. Instinct talks in knowingness, not in fear. If it's coming from fear, it's probably not your instinct, or it's definitely not your instincts. Now, that doesn't mean that you should go do that. Like if I feel fear, and there's this thing over there I want to do, that doesn't mean then I should definitely go do it. That's a strong possibility that I would start moving in that direction to learn from it so I could release the fear and learn from it. And then from that, you'll either resolve it and move on and say, oh, this isn't something I want to do, and you go somewhere else. So I would move in that direction to learn from it. But instincts don't talk in fear, they talk in knowingness. Does that make sense? So I do move towards fears to learn and grow from them, but for the real intent, the real reason I do it is so I can release and get clears. Because whatever you move, this is what I was trying to get at, whatever you move towards, like if I start walking towards this hot blonde and I'm scared of beautiful women, and I start walking towards her, all my stories start to come up. That gives me something to work on, subconscious stories, beliefs. So I go over and say hi to her, talk to her for a second, it scares the shit out of me. Now that night or that day or that even right afterwards, I can do some releasing, some meditation, clean up all that, the stuff that came up around that, and then do it again. The next day it'll be better. If you just, people that push all their emotions down, go approach, do it again, just keep pushing it all down are the ones that become really fucking weird. Have you ever seen those guys? They're just out there like robots and machines. They've pushed so many emotions down. Instead of releasing and healing, they're pushing it all down. Every day, I'm going to do some more. I'm going to push down more. I'm going to do some more. And this girl yelled at me. I'll push that down too. And then pretty soon they have no more emotional access at all. They're these talking heads with no emotions talking to women. And the women are like, that guy's really weird. And I've seen a lot of them come through gatherings because they've been working for so long. And they're diligent. They're hard. They're really working on changing this stuff. But instead of getting in touch with their real emotions, which is the tool we use to seduce and connect, they're pushing all that down because it's too painful, and nobody's taught them different. Nobody's taught them how to process that stuff out. Nobody's taught them how to move through that stuff, how to heal that stuff. So they just keep pushing more down. And then they start becoming stranger and odder and weirder. And we get those guys in here. We've got them as clients, and we just start stripping it all away. And it takes some time. You know, if that's something you've gone, you went through that, Eddie. You remember that? Yeah. So moving towards something can be very beneficial. And what'll happen is once you get there and you've done all the releasing and cleaning up, you might find the thing you're moving towards isn't what you really want at all anyways. You want something else now. But it was a great experience. You learned from it. You grew from it. And now I'm done with this. Now I'm going to move towards this instead. And that'll keep happening the rest of your life, actually, because as we grow in our confidence, as we grow in our emotional access, as we grow in our groundedness, we're going to keep wanting newer and bigger experiences. That's part of being human. We can't stay the same. That's part of being in a body. You have to grow the rest of your life, you know, and you have to keep, because the body's not going to stop changing. Even a meditator who is a renunciate and sitting in a monastery, you'd say, oh, he's not choosing to change. He's completely changing. He's meditating and surrendering his ego a little bit more each day. He's growing in that regard a little bit more each day. He's becoming more connected to Source, more connected to God, however you want to call it, more connected to the universe each day. That's what he's working on. He's working on creating internal depth. Whereas you might see somebody like Richard Branson, who's out there working every day on and creating a bigger external world. But when you do that, his internal depth of the monk is creating a richer experience of the external world when he's walking around. So he is creating a bigger external world, even if it doesn't show as in the form of money, let's say. Maybe it shows in the form of richness of experience and the beauty he sees in the world and the love and compassion he gets with people. Whereas somebody like Branson, as he becomes more successful in the external world, if he's not just doing it from state pomp, from ego, then he's going to get a richer experience of his internal world, which I believe he does. So, question answered?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Do we have much more time, or how are we doing?
We're gonna cut it there.
Okay, so I want to thank you guys. I want to thank everybody out there in the in YouTube Live. I couldn't remember, but YouTube Live, I want to thank you guys for being here this week. I love doing these episodes. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, we're going to get back to the seminar we're having today for all the Fearless family here. And I'll see you in the next episode or the next video or whatever comes up. And I hope to eventually see you at a gathering. Take care. Have a good night.